Welcome back to another episode of the Sports Nerd. It's been a few weeks, but we're finally back gearing up for some playoff football in the NFL. I'm Dawson Livingston, joined by Braden Bankin. Braden, how we doing?
I'm doing all right. Niners aren't going to be in the playoffs, unfortunately, something I kind of already saw coming from a while away. I've grieved this season a long time ago. I'm just ready to be able to watch some football and not have any stakes in it.
Right, and we potentially have, I would argue, the greatest 5 day stretch of football, maybe ever. Tonight, obviously, as we're recording, we have Penn State Notre Dame in the semifinals of the college football playoff. Tomorrow night, Texas and Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. Saturday, there's all the wild card games, which is what Texans, Chargers, and I Ravens. Why am I
Yeah,
blanking? Steelers,
Ravens,
Ravens.
Steelers, and then
Sunday, there's
yeah, I don't
three more games. Then Monday night, we get the Rams versus the Vikings game. Who,
Vikings. Yeah,
yeah, we all should have good matchups. But yeah, what a great time if you're a football fan. Not only just the NFL, but just the in college football or even both. Hey, there's people out there. Um, but I want to kind of recap. We haven't been on for the last few weeks, so I kind of want to discuss last week of the regular season. A lot of things changed. A lot of seeding changed. The number one pick, I think, since we recorded our last one, has changed three different teams in the last 3 weeks. I think
that
that
sounds
sounds all
about
right
right. Yeah, it's
because it
it
was
is it has been an
Raiders.
absolute mismatch at the bottom.
It was Raiders who had it in week 16, Patriots who had it in week 17, and the Titans end up with the number one overall pick for the 2025 draft, where maybe it's Cam Ward, maybe it's Shadur Sanders, maybe it's Travis Hunter. We don't know. We're still, what, 4.5 months away from really deciding who's going to be the number one pick. But sounds like no one wanted that number one pick for some reason. Teams kept winning games. Like the Patriots in week 18. I don't know if you watched that game at all. The Bills played Josh Allen for a single snap, and then they're just like, we do not care about this game. And it ultimately resulted in the Patriots dropping from the first pick to what, the fourth pick? Does that sound
Fourth,
right?
yeah.
Which those teams like the Patriots and Raiders, you're not doing a good job at tanking. That's all I'm going to say. Especially Raiders, they dropped from first to six. You don't have a head coach anymore. Just fired their GM today. Like, if you're a Raiders fan right now, I would be pretty trying to keep this family friendly, but upset with the
Upset.
franchise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, kind of recapping some of our Week 18 games that we had. We had two Saturday games this past weekend. Browns Ravens. No, I'm not going to really talk about that one. It happened. It was 35-10. Unless you have any thoughts on that game.
Yeah, it was one of if not the highest like spreads, and the over still hit on it. So
Yep.
that's
Shout out. I guess the one thing I do have for this game. Shout out Michael Pierce. I think the second or third heaviest player ever to get an interception in an NFL game. So shout out Michael Pierce. Granted, garbage time, but hey, that's still an interception. Still goes down in the record books. So good for
dude. When
him.
he went down, my knees hurt for him. Did you see the form that you can tell that is a man that is not used to having to drop very
No,
often.
no, that is a man who does not see the football in his hands too often.
That
And
he hit the ground like a sack of potatoes.
dude,
That
it
was
was fun. Well, what's funny is in that clip, he like stiff armed one of the Browns players. Like the first stiff arm he had was very impressive, and then he immediately went down right after. Oh man, if he would have kept running with that, if he would have scored, oh man, I think the internet would have just broke. Like
I
I
don't.
think
There's simply no way.
I mean, you don't
How
know
many
that.
tackles? How many tackles would he have to break? Because he's
Or
not outrunning
he could have.
anybody.
We've seen laterals on picks. You could just lateral it backwards to one of your faster safeties. I feel like at that point he should still get credit for the touchdown, but I think
It's
all in
not the
all,
same, but I
no,
see where
it's
you're
not.
coming from.
But all in all, shout out Michael Pierce for a thick six. Not a thick six, but a thick pick.
The
So
thick pick,
thick pick,
second
not a thick
tier.
six. Um, Second game on that Saturday schedule was Bengals Steelers. Bengals ended up winning this game 19-17, which at that point in time kept their playoff hopes alive. Steelers had a chance late in the game. I think they were on about the 40 or 50 yard line, but couldn't convert on, I believe it was a 4th and 12 or something along the lines of that. Um, Obviously, events played on later out through this weekend, but Cincinnati not in the playoffs despite rattling off, I believe, 5 straight wins.
Yes, they were 4-8, finished 9-8, I believe.
What are your thoughts on the Bengals as a whole right now? Because they got a lot of, I mean, defense is really bad. They've already fired their DC, Lou Anarumo. Jamar Chase is up for a contract. T. Higgins is going to hit the open market, we assume. What are your overall thoughts on the Bengals?
Um, I don't think Lou Anarumo was the problem here. He was getting head coaching offers last offseason, if you recall that, but it's just a matter of they don't have money. They have Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase. T. Higgins is gone, but it sounds like they might be trying to keep him.
I don't
But
know how you
there's
do,
just
though.
they're throwing all of their chips on the offense, and then whatever defensive coordinator is sorry enough to end up taking that job, they're gonna be like, hey, we're gonna give you 50 cents, and here, have fun. Go build us a defense that can stop NFL offenses. It's not gonna be good. They're just stuck right now, really. They are in a they can win games, but they can't win enough games for me to be confident that they're gonna be able to do anything. Because yeah, they can score
Right.
40, but they're gonna give up 50, like we
And,
saw all season.
and I would say, too, that the way the Bengals play on offense also doesn't help their defense out. Because they throw the ball
No,
40, 45 times a game with Joe Burrow, which, granted, you have Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. You should be doing that. I'm not faulting them. It's just when you're throwing the ball 45 times, your defense is going to be on the field for a lot longer because 3 and outs happen a lot faster. It's just, I don't think the offense was necessarily setting them up, the defense, for success. And listen, I'm a Chiefs fan. I've seen Lou Anarumo had a spell over the Chiefs offense for 3 games in a row over the 2021 regular season, the 2021 AFC title game, 2022 regular season. Like, he was able to figure the Chiefs out. I think, given another opportunity in this league, I still think he could be a very successful coach. Maybe not a head coach in the near future, but I still think he's a really, really good coach at this point in his career. Um, on the flip side of that game, Steelers did drop that one. Steelers are losers of 4 in a row. 4 in a row. Lost to the Eagles 27-13. Lost to the Ravens, Chiefs, and Bengals to end their season. For a team that was comfortably in the lead for the AFC North, what are your thoughts on Pittsburgh entering the playoffs?
I mean, we kind of knew going into it that the first half of the schedule looked fairly simple. You look at that back half, and it was a gauntlet to start, and it ended up being a gauntlet.
Right.
I think they are. I feel like who we think they are. So if history tells us anything, that means that this weekend's probably not going to be very fun for them.
No, and it's kind of felt like the last few years when the Steelers get in the playoffs, they're just kind of like limping into the finish line. Like, they're going to sneak in as a 6 or 7 seed, but they're not really going to do a whole lot. They had the game last year where, was it, they played Buffalo? It was a Mason Rudolph playoff game. I don't give them too much flack for that one, but it just seems like since like really the last 6 or 7 years, you haven't really seen the Steelers make a deep playoff push. And I think the stat is they haven't won a playoff game actually since 2016, I think,
Ooh,
against the Kansas City Chiefs, where I was at that game. That was all field goals that they won. Shout out Chris Boswell, I guess, for that one. 18-16. Still haunts me as a first game ever for a Chiefs fan. But yeah, man, the Steelers certainly not trending in the right direction come the playoffs. Um, but yeah, maybe they're one and done. Maybe they can shock the world and beat the Ravens. Division games are always super tough, so you never know how those can play out. But yeah, man, if you're a Steelers fan, it's not looking good entering the playoffs right now. Uh, Kind of touching on a few more regular season games. I got to give my credit and my shout out. If we did Player of the Week this week, this guy would be my Player of the Week. Bryce Young, as a guy who's been on the
my
Panthers
man.
all freaking year, I've been Panthers bandwagon, dude. It makes me happy. It makes me smile. For those of you that didn't watch this game, because I can't imagine a lot of you did, um, Carolina won this game in overtime against Atlanta to essentially end Atlanta's playoff chances. Bryce Young went 25-34 for 251 yards, 3 touchdowns, and added 2 rushing touchdowns. As someone who's never sold his Bryce Young stock, who bought in when he was a rookie and predicted him to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, it just makes me happy. It makes me smile to see. Um,
I'm happy
On
I
the
could
other s-
join while you're talking about the Panthers, of course.
yes, yes, you have to. The
What
Panthers,
better
they don't get a
time,
whole lot
really?
of love. You got to give them their love when they deserve it. All right, and they deserved it this past Sunday.
Uh,
On the flip side, Penix had his second start of the year, 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. Did have a rushing touchdown. Didn't play a bad game. It was just kind of a shootout, and it ended up going in the Panthers' favor. Some of the other games from this past Sunday, Bears won on a walk-off field goal against the Packers, which I think is hilarious because the Bears just worsened their draft pick even more. I
Dude,
mean,
I had a buddy, shout out my boy Josh Allen. That is his name. That is his legit name
Yep.
is Josh Allen. We call him QB1. He's a Bears fan, and he drove up to that game to watch it. And I asked him, I was like, did you think what everyone else thought was going to happen? He's like, oh, that he was either going to get it blocked or they were going to completely shank it. And I'm like, yep, I just wanted to make sure that you were on the same page. He's like, dude, you get numb to it at some point. Like that's just what it's like being a Bears fan.
well, I remember I was at work. I was doing something in the back, and at this time, the Packers had just hit a field goal with 50 seconds left. I'm thinking game's over. Bears, surely they don't drive into field goal range. And even if they do, we've seen multiple times this regular season what happens when they do. I come back out, and one of my coworkers is a Bears fan. And he just had his head down on the table, just irate because it's like I think they would. I don't know what draft pick they would have had, but I think they're sitting at what? I'm pulling this up right now. I want to say the 10th pick. I'm sure they would have gotten at least the 6th or 7th pick in the draft had they lost that game, but I don't know. I just got that. Thought that was kind of funny that's how the Bears season ends. Moving on, a few more other games that happened this past weekend. I don't want to talk about this game, but we will for a brief second. Chiefs lost 38-0, playing their JV
Wait,
starters.
how much was that?
38-0.
How much did they score?
The Chiefs,
Yeah.
0.
Yeah, I know that they didn't play their starters, but I just like hearing you say that. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna lie.
38-0. Yeah. I don't know. They
It
played
was
a team
a
that
throwaway game.
yeah, they played a team that needed to win that game to go into the playoffs, so I don't really stress about that one too much. Plus Denver's a solid team. I mean, they almost beat Kansas City earlier in the year anyway. So, I don't really put too much stock into that game. Moving on, some of the other games, some of the other storylines that I really want to touch on. Dolphins Jets, which usually you'd be like, why are we talking about this? Jets win this one 32-20. I think the main storyline though is the Tyreek Hill quotes that came out after the game. Him basically saying to the Dolphins right after, he's like, "Yep, I'm out." He's got to evaluate his future. Braden, where do you think? Do you think Tyreek Hill stays with the Dolphins? A, and B, if he doesn't, where do you think he ends up this offseason?
I don't know where he goes. I know that it's not going to be in Miami, though. I
No.
think that bridge has been burnt. They are looking to build a culture right now. And if you're going to actively go out in interviews and say, yeah, I don't care. I don't want to be here. I need to do what's best for my family. Which, first of all, that's the contract. You got your money. You did what's best for your family. This has nothing to do with the family at this point. This is
Right.
this is you want your cake and you want to eat it too. That's
Mhm.
that's all this is. So that's just trying to throw in buzzwords to make you not look like the bad guy here. No, I love Tyreek Hill, by the way. I don't want to make it seem like I have anything against
Shout out
Tyreek
Cheetah.
Hill. Even though he did beat the Niners in the Super Bowl 2019, was a big part of it. But I digress. Still a hell of a player to watch. Would be fun to watch anywhere he goes, really. But he's not staying in Miami. Absolutely not.
Brock, what do you think?
Is there a hypothetical situation where he realizes what he has done and he goes tail between his legs
Come back, buddy.
and
back.
makes a trip over to Kansas City to
Come
see
back.
if he
We'll
would
take you.
but at the same
he
time,
take that
Kansas City
contract?
is a really traditional franchise. Like I feel like they're one where it's like once you burn a bridge, it's almost like I'm sorry.
I think Kareem Hunt destroyed that myth.
That is
Yeah.
true. That is true.
Yeah.
That is true.
I'd say Kareem Hunt burnt that bridge a lot worse than Tyreek Hill saying, I want money.
That is true. I didn't
Um,
even think about that honestly.
where do you think outside of like Kansas City, because I have a few spots in mind that I think could be fun. I think Dallas would be a fun.
That would have been my pick. But like, what's Dallas's financial situation?
See, that's the thing, is I haven't taken a deep dive into that. I think the Chargers, as much as I hate to say it, you put him with Herbert.
Oh,
I mean, now you're cooking. Now you got something on offense. You got Herbert a weapon finally, because he's got Lad McConkey and
McConkey. Yeah.
and he's got a bunch of plumbers and mailmen out there running
Brad
routes for him.
McConkey and Will Dissly and Quentin
Yeah.
Johnson.
Yeah. Oh,
That's-
TCU legend.
that's who Justin
Quentin
Herbert
Hey,
Johnson.
Quentin Johnson was amazing in college. I will say that was one of the few players I have never been so wrong about heading into
Same.
the NFL. Because when he got drafted there, I was like, dude, you threw him Duggan threw him the ball and it was like a magnet.
Mm-hmm. He just didn't know how to run a route that
I
wasn't
mean, that
a
was
streak
what
or
was it,
slant.
Jalen Rager too, where coming out of TCU he looked unbeatable, and then he makes it to the NFL and sucks.
Yeah,
Is
TCU's
Jalen
got a
Rager
history.
Still in the league? Is that
Rager, I
Right.
think he's a returner on some team. I don't know.
he's on the Chargers? That is so funny.
Of course he is.
That's
Of course
hilarious.
he is.
That is hilarious. Why did I forget that? Chargers just love the TCU guys. Is Duggan still on the Chargers? That is my other question.
He
no, I
just
think he got-
recently
he got
signed with the
released.
XFL team.
He is the
Battlehawks,
Hawks,
baby.
yeah, I was gonna say, did he sign with the Battlehawks?
But
Okay.
Yes,
why
sir.
do like every player that came out of the Big 12 just find their way on the Battlehawks somehow?
Dude,
At least like
Anthony
every
Beck
Iowa
loves
State
them.
guy, it feels like.
there's
Oh,
so
man.
many players that have some kind of tie to the state of Iowa that play for the Battlehawks. It's kind of hilarious.
It is quite funny. Touch on, and then one other storyline. I think the biggest game of arguably the year, Lions Vikings Sunday Night Football. A lot of anticipation, a lot of hype for this game, but it ended up just being a total bloodbath. Lions win this one 31-9. They lock up the 1 seed. Sam Darnold was seeing ghosts yet again in Detroit.
Ball.
Sam, you evaded pumpkin mode all year, dude. I was so happy for you. The second we don't have a couple podcasts, a couple weeks without one, you decided to turn into an utter pumpkin, dude. Like, what are we doing? As someone who was buying stock in Sam Darnold finally. But, yep, Lions win this one 31-9, lock up the 1 seed, home field throughout the NFC. Braden, I want to ask you, are you concerned about the Vikings at all? Do you think Sam's still seeing ghosts, or do you think it was just Detroit needed this one more and they played harder?
Yeah, I think this is just Detroit's a really good football team. Obviously, yeah, you do have concerns if you're the Vikings. You wonder. I mean, I don't know how much further they're getting in the playoffs other than a game or two. Because as soon as you hit the Lions, I don't know if they're pulling that one out. But I think they're probably gonna win this weekend. A little spoiler of what we're doing later, but yeah, I think again they are who we think they are. Where they're gonna win a game or two maybe, but serious Super Bowl contenders, I don't know.
Brock?
I don't know what to think about the Vikings, man. Because they're the Vikings for Pete's sake. Like, this is weird because this is, in my opinion, the most entertaining Vikings team that I've seen growing up. Honestly, Teddy Bridgewater was really fun to watch with them, but like they were never like really good with him.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying Sam Darnold's unbelievable, but like you see spurts with this offense that like they're not terrible. I'm on the boat for saying that I thought the Aaron Jones signing was going to be terrible and not going to work out, and it actually has been a pretty successful season for them with Aaron Jones in the backfield. But man, you know what? Out of all the situations, I think they're fortunate that their draw for who they have to go play at is better than any other draw that they could have gotten. I'd rather go play in LA if it's even going to be played in LA with all those fires
that's
going on
another
right
story.
now.
Yeah.
I'd prayers to all those people dealing with that situation in California. Wherever the game is played, though, I'd rather play the Rams just because their fan base is in St. Louis and they will not be playing in St. Louis than the Vikings playing anywhere else.
I was just about to say, yeah, it doesn't matter if it's in LA or Glendale. You're gonna have about the same amount of Rams fans.
Exactly.
By the way.
Dude, Rams fans don't exist. They came out.
They do in St. Louis.
They do in St. Louis. That's fair. But
They
LA
did
Rams
until
fans,
they pissed on their grave.
like, they came out for like 3 years or not 3 years, 3 months on that run to the Super Bowl with Stafford, Odell, Cooper Kupp. Like when Von Miller, when they were running, and then they all disappeared. You don't hear anything from a Rams fan anymore.
Do you remember like how much hype Todd Gurley had
Oh man,
for like
Shit.
not
shout
even
out
a
Todd
year?
Gurley.
It was less than 6 months, dude.
He's not even 30, or I think he just turned 30, which makes it's just crazy to me. Because, like, a guy who's playing in the playoffs right now, who's a running back, Kareem Hunt, I think, is 30 or 31. 2 years, he's 2 draft classes behind a guy like Todd Gurley. And it's just, it sucks because Todd Gurley was a guy who literally took over the league when he came in, which is
It just shows you how quickly those running backs can fizzle out.
why I don't take any of the flack with saying that Saquon's contract that in the offseason was bad, because at the time I was against paying running backs, and now I might have to eat my words on that. But
you gotta. I'm really worried about how many carries he got, how much he got the ball this year. Because, dude, statistics don't lie, man, and there is statistics on how many carries it takes until someone either hits their peak of their career or starts going down. Obviously, there's some outliers when you look at the greats of the NFL, but man, he has touched the ball a lot. He's been hit a lot. I'm not saying that there's anything to worry about, but it's just something to keep an eye on.
yeah, for sure. I think another storyline of this, I want to really quick talk about the Lions a little bit more. Jahmyr Gibbs with 4 touchdowns. I have to bring this up. Shout out Jahmyr. He helped me with my fantasy championship. Why we had a fantasy championship in one of my leagues in week 18,
Yeah.
I don't know. Jahmyr Gibbs, I won by 4 points on that last touchdown. So Jahmyr Gibbs, I have to give you a shout out for that.
Were you the commissioner?
I was the commissioner. I forgot to change it. at the beginning
Okay,
of the
I was
season.
about to say, whoever your commissioner is, please give him a little leeway, because I didn't realize I did that for one of my leagues that I did as well. So
I realized in like week 10, I'm like, oh, this is gonna suck. But
yeah,
it's too late in the season to change.
which is funny that we both had that situation and
Uh-huh.
we both won our respective leagues.
Shout
that
out
year.
Jahmyr Gibbs for that one. 4 touchdowns, 140 yards on the ground, and also added 30 yards in the air, 5 receptions, and had that receiving touchdown, obviously. And I think the biggest news that's come out this week with Detroit is David Montgomery is coming back next week, which
D-Mont,
I think,
baby.
which I thought 2-3 weeks ago was not even a 1% possibility of him coming back to play. When you have Sonic and Knuckles in the backfield, you're able to keep the defense on their toes because you have the speed of Jahmyr Gibbs. You can put him out wide, and then when it gets inside the 5-yard line, you know who the ball is going to. It's going to Montgomery 4 times in a row, and having him back for the divisional round is going to be huge for the Lions. And I don't know, it just makes them even scarier. They're getting players back too on defense. Alex Anzalone was able to play on Sunday night, which is a huge piece on defense for them. He was able to pretty much cover. What's that?
It's just insane that he was able to come back because his forearm was in like 3 different pieces. Able to
Right,
come
and-
back within the season is crazy.
And he had some insane plays on Sunday night. He was able to pretty much limit TJ Hawkinson to really, like, I think 2 catches for 9 yards. And coming in, Hawkinson was arguably a top 5 tight end in the league. So I think for the Lions to be able to figure that out and slow them down, because that Vikings offense, when it's clicking, you have not only Hawkinson, you have Jefferson, Addison, Aaron Jones. Like, credit to the Lions for holding him to 9 points, no touchdowns. But I think the bigger story is, I think my boy Sam, not even my boy, why did I say that? Sam Darnold is finally seeing ghosts again. So
I think the bigger storyline is honestly how like Detroit's defense is still finding ways to actually like play decent football even with all these injuries. Like, and you mentioned D-Mont, like it. I'm not trying to always find a way to connect this with an Iowa school, but like their defense right now reminds me a lot of Iowa State's defense in the fact that they basically have barely anything at this point. They keep losing a different player every week. Good Lord. For Detroit, it's corners. For Iowa State, it was linebackers. There were none by the end of the year for Iowa State. And then right now, well, heck, they had one, if not two, go down last weekend, right?
They had Tyrion Arnold go down, and I think you're right. I think they had one more player go down.
So how many more players can you find to put on your roster, man? It's crazy.
Yeah, Carlton. No. Yeah,
Carlton Davis,
I
I
know
think,
for
has
sure
been
Tyrion
off a
Arnold
little bit.
went down. What's that, Bank?
I think Carlton Davis has been out for a couple weeks, right? I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think he.
Yeah.
Let me pull up the injury thing. He's not expected to get off IR for the playoffs as of January 7th, so 2 days ago. But another thing I really want to talk about before we get into our playoff predictions, kind of just where the awards are. Where do the general public see who's going to win certain awards? We're at the end of the regular season. We have the big enough sample size. And just like in every other league, this is a regular season award for almost all of these. So it's a good spot to really see where the general public thinks who's going to win certain awards. The MVP odds, I'll just say the top three. Josh Allen is the favorite at minus 300. Lamar at plus 240. And shout out Saquon, plus 1,800. I know that's a huge gap from second to third, but for him to sneak in at third is quite impressive for running back. I just want to know your guys' thoughts. Do you guys think Josh Allen is the MVP, or do you think Lamar should win it?
I think it's Lamar. You look at he's having probably the best season of his career, and he's won 2 MVPs already. So, I
Right.
mean, yeah, Josh Allen has probably the better record and has a lot more rushing touchdowns, but I mean, that's just tush pushes, really.
Right.
So, yeah, I think, yeah, it's really close. Obviously, I think like the odds are saying, but I think you got to give it to Lamar.
Brock?
Do you know when votes have to be sent in? Is it pre-playoffs?
No, I don't know. Let me see.
Because if it's pre-playoffs, you look at the stats and everything. I honestly, and I'm someone that likes Josh Allen, but I would probably go Lamar because, good Lord, they're so the Bills went 13-4, the Ravens went 12-5, so there's not that much of a difference there. Then you look at statistics, and honestly, Lamar kind of, in my opinion, blows Josh Allen out of the water. Ranks 6th in passing yards, tied for second in passing touchdowns, and is first in QBR. And then you look at Josh, he's second in QBR, but tied for 7th in passing touchdowns and 14th in passing yards. I know the rushing thing is a big deal for some people when considering this, but like, in my opinion, it should be more impressive that Lamar Jackson's been able to do it through the air. Because again, coming in, everybody just thought he was a running back. So I would go Lamar Jackson in this situation. But if it's a playoff scenario where like, and this is probably why they don't allow it to happen in the playoffs. And maybe, I don't know when votes actually do get tallied, but if these two teams match up, that could decide who wins MVP.
The odds are close enough where I know it's just a regular season award, but narratives are a huge thing in sports. We see it in the NBA all the time.
That's why Josh Allen, I think, will win it.
Right. I think the argument for Allen is he hasn't won one before. He's led his team to 13-4. He doesn't I think we would all agree the Bills got significantly worse in the offseason last year. I think that's a fair argument. Lost Stephon Diggs, lost countless pieces on defense, and was really able to carry his team to a 13-3 record. I know he played a snap on Sunday, but I don't count a lot. Yeah, it doesn't count.
Absolutely.
For me. The argument for Lamar is that he has the better statistics, but I will say Lamar dropped 5 games. They went 12-5. They had to win that last game to solidify themselves the 3 seed, whereas a guy like Josh, if he really wanted to, they easily could have beat the Patriots, so it could have been 14-3. And with Lamar, I think the thing that's really going to hold him back for him not winning the award is the fact that he already is 2. If I had a vote, I would probably vote Lamar. I think he's had a better year. But I think the fact that he already has 2 and that he won it last year, I think this award's going to go to Allen because I think the voters are going to have a little fatigue with Lamar.
So we're not going to count last week's Patriots game.
Yep.
For Josh Allen. In that case, you can if you want to talk about team performance being involved with being the most valuable player, maybe that's why some people would go with Josh Allen, because you look at Lamar has been responsible for a stinker loss against both the Raiders and the Browns. Right. And if you look at Josh Allen's and the Bills, their worst loss, probably the Rams or the Texans, depending on
both playoff teams, though.
Both playoff teams, yeah. So maybe that's something that people are considering. I do think the narrative is actually going to go towards Josh Allen. Multiple reasons fitting with what you said about, Lamar's won it, all this stuff in the past. But also, Stephon Diggs won it out of Buffalo and left Josh Allen high and dry with nothing else. And he was able to put this team to be one of the best teams in the league, 13-4. 13-3 with him playing meaningful snaps and high playoff seed without the guy that everybody thought was the only weapon that he had.
Right. Josh didn't have a receiver get over 850 yards. Well, I think Lamar had, was it Zay that went over 1,000? I know Zay was a Pro Bowler. I don't know if he got necessarily 1,000 yards. But I think the other argument, too, is that Lamar, his team had 9 Pro Bowl selections, and Buffalo had 2, Josh Allen and Deion Dawkins. So I think the argument for Josh is he's done more with less. I think the argument for Lamar is statistics, but again, I think the reason that Allen's going to win is because Lamar's already got 2. I think if Lamar didn't have any, or if he only had 1, this is Lamar's award all day long. The fact that he already has 2, and we're this far into Allen's career where he doesn't have any, I think for that reason, they're going to give it to Allen. Moving on to the next award. I don't even know if we really need to talk about this one too much, but NFL Offensive Player of the Year. Saquon is, I'm just going to say he's going to win it. He's minus 5,000. The next closest is plus 2,000 and then plus 2,500 with Derrick Henry and Jamar Chase. I mean, I think we all can agree that Saquon's going to run away with that award. Like, that should be a unanimous Offensive Player of the Year, unless you guys disagree.
No.
Any other year, probably, in my opinion, would probably go to Chase because he ended up locking up the Triple Crown, right?
Yep. I think, 120 catches, like 1,700 yards and 17 touchdowns, something like that.
Any other year, if Chase had those numbers, he would have locked up that award, but you can't compete with someone that can backwards hurdle.
No.
Yeah, you rush for 2,000 yards, you're winning Offensive Player of the Year. There's no debating that.
Moving on to the next award. This one's a very close odds-wise. NFL Defensive Player of the Year, TJ Watt is a minus 130 favorite. Pat Surtain II is a plus 150. And then in a distant third place is Myles Garrett at plus 950. Who do you guys think deserves to win the Defensive Player of the Year? Is it a guy like TJ Watt, or is it Pat Surtain, who's arguably who's been the best corner in the league all year long? Who do you guys think should win this one?
It's so close, man. I've been on this podcast multiple times saying TJ Watt has been single-handedly winning the Steelers games. He's one of the best players in the league, no matter the position. That being said, stat here for you: PS2 has faced 5 AFC Pro Bowl pass catchers, and versus PS2, they have 92 routes, 16 targets, 6 catches, 56 yards, no touchdowns, and 2 picks. Versus any other corner, 155 routes, 52 targets, 38 catches, 606 yards, 5 touchdowns. He is absolutely locking up right now. Absolutely locking up. So if there's anybody that can hang with TJ Watt, I think PS2's your guy.
I'm good with either. Big TJ Watt guy. I mean, he backs it up with how he plays. There's not really much you can say about him that hasn't already been said. But also, I had Denver's defense on my fantasy team, and they were a big reason I won actually a lot of games. Yeah. One of the few defenses that you could rely on to most likely get you out of a pickle. So, and a lot of that is because of PS2.
I don't think we've had a corner win Defensive Player of the Year since when? Is it Stephon Gilmore is the last to win it? And that's already been 5 or 6 years ago. So I think it'd be cool if we saw a corner win this award. I think Brady made a great argument. The numbers don't lie. I know TJ Watt's having a great year. He's always going to be the reason the Steelers are competing. But I think TJ already has 1 or 2 Defensive Player of the Years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I think 1 for sure. I don't know about the second one. I think this one should go to Pat Surtain. No one before the season thought Denver was really going to do anything. Now, saying that, I think a lot of that was to do with questions on offense. Granted, those have been solved seemingly with Bo Nix. But I do think Pat Surtain has played a huge role in Denver's eventual playoff push. So I would probably give the award to Pat Surtain. I think we all are in agreement on that. These next 2 awards, again, are pretty much locked up already, even though I think there's a very good discussion to be had about this first one. Offensive Rookie of the Year, Jaden Daniels is the heavy favorite, minus 1,000, followed by Brock Bowers at plus 3,000 and Bo Nix at plus 5,000. Do you guys think Jaden Daniels should be the runaway favorite, or do you guys think like a guy like Brock Bowers should have any say in this award?
Yeah, runaway, no, but I think this is Daniels' award. Yeah, Brock Bowers is having like the best rookie season a tight end has ever had, at the very least since what, Mike Ditka. So I
Right.
mean, he's been having a hell of a year. Bo Nix has had one of the best second halves of the season a rookie quarterback I feel like has ever had.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Jaden Daniels has just been on another stratosphere. Was possibly an MVP candidate at a certain point of the season.
Was.
So yeah, I feel like this is Jaden Daniels' award, but I feel like you got to be giving more respect to guys like Brock Bowers and Bo Nix.
Rock?
Brock Bowers in the second half of the season won me a lot of fantasy games as well. So I'm just kidding. Jaden Daniels has been more consistent throughout the whole season. Honestly, it's difficult for me because Dawson, you know me, I'm a big fan of the tight end position. It's probably one of my favorite positions in football. Rob Gronkowski is one of my favorite players of all time. But Jaden Daniels is just, it's when in doubt, you give it to the quarterback. And so if he was kind of shaky, similar to like Caleb Williams had this year, Brock Bowers probably would be the runaway, in my opinion, with it. Shout out Bo Nix for giving me a little bit of credibility, saying that he might be the best, not the best quarterback, best option to take in that draft. I still would have taken Caleb first overall, but I thought he was going to be one of the better later first round picks, if not later quarterbacks taken outside of, the obvious ones of Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels heading into the draft.
Yeah. As many records as Brock Bowers has broken this year, when a guy like Jaden Daniels leads the Washington Commanders to a 12-5 record, and if it wasn't for the Eagles being so good, Washington would have won that division. So I think for those reasons, he's kind of like changed the culture. And I know like Dan Quinn's done a lot for Washington, but I would argue that Washington wouldn't be in the same stratosphere if they didn't have a guy like Jaden Daniels. So I think for that reason, he needs to be the runaway favorite for this award.
Did you guys hit on the fact that the Raiders fired their coach?
Fired their coach and GM.
Yeah.
Yep.
You think they're making a call to Chapel Hill?
Maybe. I will say this. I heard this on Twitter. When the Raiders hire their next head coach, they will have 4 coaches on payroll. 4 head coaches' salaries. They're still paying John Gruden. They're still paying Josh McDaniels. They're paying Antonio Pierce, and then the new guy. And if they do Belichick, they're going to have to buy him out for, what is it, $10 million before June 1st?
Their owner can pay for that, let's be honest.
Yeah. I'm just saying, I thought that was kind of hilarious that at one point this next few years, they're going to have 4 coaches on their payroll.
Yeah.
And Gruden hasn't been the coach for the last, 3 years? I just thought that was something I needed to bring up.
But hey, shout out Brock Bowers for being able to perform at that level, break all those records with no quarterback.
Right. Aiden O'Connell, Desmond Ridder. I mean, Gardner Minshew, like if they can get a quarterback there, dude. I'm not saying Raiders are going to be a playoff team, but hey, man, watch out for the Raiders. Brock Bowers is that good.
I think now thinking about it, if like the Commanders would have been like bottom half of the league, I think honestly bottom half of the league, but Jaden Daniels still performed decently well. I actually think there might be more discussion on who could win Rookie of the Year, just because Brock Bowers did more with less.
Right. It's just Jaden went 12-5.
Yep.
He's
I think the
gonna be,
record has a big impact on it.
Yeah, and the
Yeah,
fact, like you said,
this is Jamar
quarterbacks.
Chase versus Justin Herbert all over again, but
Oh,
even
man.
more insane because it's a tight end.
Well, no, it was that year was Jefferson and Herbert. Chase was the following year.
That's who I meant. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying
Jamar
though.
Chase
That
and Mac Jones, but yeah.
yeah.
We,
Oh man, Mac Jones, dude, but he's
What
still
a guy.
balling out. In
He
Jacksonville
led
right
he
now.
led a team to the
thank
playoffs.
God he was never a Niner.
And then got what stomped 50-14 or something like that against the Bills.
Yeah.
Hey man, Mac Jones probably not going to have an opportunity to really start again, but hey man, you did
The
lead
Memphis
the Patriots to
Steamboats would
playoffs.
take him.
What'd you say?
The Memphis Steamboats would take him. I don't know if they're still in the
you,
UFL.
You
or
might
not.
have a career in the XFL. So,
The Toronto
Next
Argonauts, I'm hearing, are opening tryouts. So you ready to
Oh,
learn
man.
elk, buddy?
next award that I really want to hit on, comeback player of the year. Joe Burrow's the overwhelming favorite at minus 4,000, followed by Sam Darnold and J.K. Dobbins at plus 230 and plus 750 respectively. Again, I don't think this could be much of an argument or debate. I think we all agree that Joe Burrow should easily win this award with the season he's had, but I see Brock's got a face. So, Brock, what's your take on this?
My take is like what was more shocking? Joe Burrow coming back from an injury and doing Joe Burrow things, or Sam Darnold, who was a backup for the 49ers, getting placed into the starting lineup because JJ McCarthy gets injured and leading them to an actually decent position in the playoffs. That's where I'm at.
I guess the thing is with this award, it used
Yeah.
to be like a player got hurt and they came back and they were awesome. Like Adrian Peterson,
Yep.
comeback player of the year when he tore his Achilles. Deserved that.
Yep.
It was about when like Geno Smith won it like 2 or 3 years ago, where it's like, oh, Geno, you were just bad, and then got traded to a new team, and then you were good. So I think if we could figure out the true definition of the award,
They need to
I
change.
think-
They need to establish a true definition.
right? Is it an injury thing, or is it just you sucked
They came
before?
out last year after Damar Hamlin didn't win it after literally dying. They came out and said, "Hey, by the way, in case you guys forgot what this whole thing is about, you're supposed to like come back from an injury or something like traumatic, not just being bad at the game that you play."
Right,
And then all of a
because
sudden
Flacco
being
won it
not
last
bad.
year.
Yeah.
Which
Flacco
in that
played-
case, give it to Joe. I don't have any issue with that. I'm just saying if this is like if Sam Darnold's even in contention and that's like an actual possibility, I think that story was they just need to change this to like the storyline of the year or something
They need you can keep your comeback player of the year. You need a most improved player.
Yeah.
I've been saying
Yes,
this for the
like
last
the NBA.
5 years. Somebody please listen to me. Because
Yes.
good Lord, it'd be solving so many problems if you could just differentiate the two categories of comeback player.
Because I think Brock's right. I think like Darnold has an argument, but there's no true definition on the award. Like,
That's the problem.
is if we had like in writing what the award is, like you have to be injured for at least 6 games and then come back and be really good, then that's awesome. If we have a definition for it. But if it's just like you sucked before and now you're good, I don't know if that necessarily warrants comeback player of the year, but that's been the trend the last few years. Because you had Geno Smith 2 years ago, you had Flacco obviously last year. So yeah, I think Brock, you make honestly a really good argument.
That's I'm more impressed by what Sam's done this year than what Joe's done, just because I didn't think Sam could even do this stuff, even with the weapons that he had.
Right.
Because man, when he was in New York and Carolina, it was bad. Like you want to watch some bad football, and we've seen some bad football from both of those franchises. But a lot of their really, really bad seasons in the last decade have been from Sam Darnold being quarterback. So
The Panthers are on the up, dude. They're on the good trajectory, dude.
Yeah,
Bryce Young's
because it's
balling.
because they fired Matt Rule.
It's because Bryce Young's balling now.
They
Don't be
got rid of the coach that never deserved to be in the NFL in the first place.
Hey man,
Listen,
Matt
I
Rule
hate
didn't know
Baylor
who
and I
Jay
hate
Higgins
Nebraska.
was. That's all I'm gonna
happy
say.
about it.
Do you want me to pull up the? Are we doing predictions now?
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Oh man, dude, I cannot wait for some of you guys' reactions.
Okay.
I can't wait to see yours first of all, and then I can't wait for you to see mine.
All right. I think Dawson's is first, so
Woo!
we'll put yours up, Dawson. Go
All right.
figure. Shocker.
You know who? Come on, guys, the hat. You know, any listeners out there, they know I'm a Chiefs fan, so I couldn't. I picked the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl last year when they had no one picking them. I think me and Brock picked them to make the Super Bowl. Brock had Niners to win last year.
Yeah,
But-
big mistake.
Yeah.
You should have known better than that.
Oh, guess what? Guess who I had winning it this year?
Yeah.
But we don't talk about that.
Dude.
And you know what? I think
Dude.
you know what's worse? You know what's worse? I put the Cowboys in the NFC Championship games
Hey,
in the
man.
preseason.
Yeah, that is worse. Okay. You actually okay.
I stuck it up this year in my
I have some
preseason
fantastic
predictions.
lakefront property in Idaho to sell you, I think.
Hey, don't hate on Idaho. It's home of the potato.
Shout out the Idaho Vandals. Shout out.
Shout out the Kitty Dome, man.
But here's my playoffs. I got first round. I got Chargers over the Texans, Ravens over the Steelers, Bills over the Broncos. I think that's pretty much chalk at this point. I think that's what the general public's going to believe. And the NFC, I got the Rams over the Vikings. I don't know why. I got a good feeling about the Rams. I know that the Vikings are 14-3, and I know as of 10 minutes ago the game just got moved to Arizona officially.
So it did.
Yeah, it did
Okay.
officially because I just saw a tweet.
Oh, so
about it.
there's definitely going to be more Minnesota fans.
I still am a Stafford believer. I think if you give me Stafford and Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams, once that offense is clicking, I think the Rams are the team. I got Washington over Tampa Bay. We haven't seen, I think the stat was the last 7 rookie quarterbacks that have their first playoff game on the road, they're 0-7. I think this is going to change. This is going to be one of the more fun games we have all year. It's going to be a high-scoring shootout. Washington did win this game in week 1, and so I think the same thing's going to happen again. I got Eagles over Packers. It sucks. Packers are my Super Bowl pick before the season. I can't stick with them as much as I want to. I do have concerns about Philly. I am still worried about Jalen Hurts passing concussion protocol. If he doesn't, oh man, this bracket's going to look horrible in about 2 weeks. Divisional round, I have Chiefs over Chargers, and then I have Bills over the Ravens. I think the Bills are the better team. I think the Bills, I know they don't have as many Pro Bowlers as the general public doesn't think. I think the Bills have the better O-line, better D-line, and I think games are won in the trenches. So for that reason, I think Buffalo's going to win that one. And it's in Buffalo this year, so I think that's going to be one of the better games we have. I got Chiefs over the Bills. It's the Arrowhead Invitational. They skipped it last year, but it's back. We're happy that it's back. So I have the Chiefs going to the Super Bowl. Divisional, I have Lions who are going to beat the Commanders. As good of a story the Commanders are, the Lions are clicking on all cylinders. Like they're one of the tougher teams to play, one of the tougher teams to game plan against. For that reason, I think the Lions are going to win. I got Philly over the Rams. I'm still a huge Rams guy, but I can't pick the Rams over the Eagles. This is assuming Jalen Hurts' health is all good and A.J. Brown's health is all good, which I think it will be come Sunday. Which sets up the NFC title game, which I think is going to be a phenomenal game of the Eagles and Lions. I have the Eagles, however. I know the Lions are 15-2, and I know the Lions have been rolling and they're getting healthy. I think when Philly is firing on all cylinders, I think you could argue they're the best team in the league. Their defense is super improved from last year. Their offense, Saquon's been a huge addition. Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown. I know there's been some bad chemistry. I think they're going to work that out. So then the Super Bowl, it's a Super Bowl 57 rematch. It's Chiefs over the Eagles. And then we all celebrate. We all have smiles on our face after this. So that is my playoff bracket.
I will say if that's the Super Bowl, I am cheering for the Chiefs. Because anyone that knows me, I can't cheer for Philadelphia teams. Absolutely,
I can't
hate
either,
that
but
city.
I have to put my objective hat on. And I just think Philly's got, when they're clicking on all cylinders, dude,
Dude,
Man, they're
if
tough.
that's the matchup, you might as well buy me a Mahomes jersey because I am not cheering for that team.
I hope neither team has fun. I hate both of those teams.
Seriously.
I don't. These are probably two of my least favorite teams. Other than if Seattle somehow makes their way in the stands, I hope a bomb. No, I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna say that because that's bad. we're gonna stop that thought right here, and we're gonna move on.
Okay.
All right.
Who's brackets
We're moving
next?
on.
Let's see who.
Oh man.
Brandon,
Well,
you're
it's
up.
been fun, guys. Oh, I'm up. Okay. All right. Yeah. Where do we want to start here? I'm just gonna try to go ones that are different than what Dawson had. I have the Vikings beating the Rams. I like the Vikings a lot more than I like the Rams. Sam Darnold did go pumpkin mode last game, but I think that's just a case of the Lions being really good. So I'm not too worried about that. Let's see. Otherwise, I think it was pretty much
You guys did the exact same for
at
the
least
NFC,
for
the
at least
AFC
for
side.
wild card. Yeah.
Pretty much, you guys have
and
the exact
then-
same thing, except for
Yeah, pretty much,
Yeah.
except for the Lions beating the Eagles. I do want to touch on something we didn't get to in the at the other part of this, which is the Packers losing to the Bears at Lambeau. The first team to lose, the only team to lose to the Bears away from Soldier Field this season. I cannot put any stock in your playoff hopes if you can't beat the Bears. And we're one missed kick away from going winless in your division. Granted, really good division. But come on, man. You can't play that close against the Bears and expect me to think, yeah, they're going to beat the Eagles, no problem.
wait, they got swept by both the Vikings and the Lions.
Yep.
Sure
The
did.
Bears and the Packers have the same division record.
You're telling me
1 and
that
5.
if that kick didn't get blocked in Soldier Field, we would
Yep.
be talking about
Yep.
Yep, we sure would be.
Absolutely.
that. Makes what we were. So for those that don't know, I've been editing this while the show has been recording, so I got these graphics put together last minute. I almost put the Packers over the Eagles, and now I'm kind of happy I did it.
Well, Hurts, I don't know if you were on for when I was talking, but Hurts is still in concussion protocol.
Saquad.
That's a fair argument, but I'm going to be honest. If Tanner McKee or Kenny Pickett is starting that game, I think I might pick Green Bay. I'm going to be
Kenny
really
Pickett,
honest.
best worst name to have as a quarterback.
So Tanner McKee might be one of the best third string quarterbacks in the league. He's been balling when he gets to play.
Doesn't mean you should be starting a playoff game,
Well-
a home playoff game for that matter.
Yeah, the only other thing I want to touch on is that NFC Championship Lions over the Eagles. Saquon Barkley is having one of the best seasons a running back has had, but the Lions are also really good against the run. So I feel like I like how that matches up. Just for the love of God, please, Detroit, don't get any more hurt than you already are, because any more injuries, then that will be the straw that breaks the camel's back. And yeah, the only other thing now is I really hope I'm wrong, because I don't want the Chiefs to win 3 in a row, because it's going to be an insufferable 2 or 3 months.
Oh man, Brock thought it was
these
bad the
points.
day after last year's Super Bowl, dude. Oh man, if they end
If
up
the
pulling,
Chiefs fall off the first three-peat, may God help us all. That's all I gotta say.
Okay. My turn. So, before I switch over the graphic, I want to say that the AFC side, we pretty much all have the same stuff. Chargers winning, Ravens winning, Bills winning in the wild card, Chargers losing to the Chiefs, and the Ravens losing to the Bills, and then the Bills losing to the Chiefs. So the Chiefs make the Super Bowl. I do have a major difference on my side of things. As you can probably hear my dogs barking. I got the Vikings beating the Rams, but they will go on to play the Lions because I have the Buccaneers beating the Commanders, and then the Commander season's over. But also, I have the Buccaneers beating the Eagles. The Buccaneers are 4-1 against the Eagles the last 5 times they played each other. And honestly, the games, I think multiple times that game has been an emphasis when we've talked about the Eagles' struggles in the past, Dawson. So the Buccaneers have been kind of an issue even since the coaching changes, even since Tom Brady's left, all that stuff. This Buccaneers team, yes, they played really bad against Carolina and they barely made the playoffs. But I have more hope in this Buccaneers team than I do the Commanders, the Vikings, or the Rams to beat the Eagles just because of their recent games against them.
He didn't say the Packers.
Well, sorry. I swear the Packers now win because I didn't say them.
Dude, if Hurts doesn't play, there's an unironic chance that they pull off.
You know what?
Upset.
If the Packers do win, it makes my situation look a little better because I do think that the Buccaneers can beat the Packers.
No,
So-
the Packers would play the Lions
yeah.
next round.
And then they would play the Vikings, which, okay, Pumpkin Watch 2.0. But give me
The battle
Buccaneers
of the 2018
versus
draft.
the Lions in the NFC Championship game, and give me the Lions. Let's go 3 for 3, man, on my terrible Super Bowl picks. I think I'm gonna go with the Lions. This is giving me Eli Manning versus the Patriots vibes, where all the Chiefs need to do is win the one game, and Jared Goff is going to find Sam Laporta for a crazy, ridiculous helmet type catch, whatever, and the Lions are going to find a way to win.
That's a Tim Patrick spot if I've ever seen one.
Brother, if that
Lord knows
actually
Dan Campbell
happens.
loves him some Tim Patrick action.
So I'm the only one that's got the Eagles in the Super Bowl.
It's because we don't want to see that matchup. It's
I
more
don't
of
either,
that.
but I just think Philly's really good.
I
just
don't
don't-
trust the Eagles, man. I just
All
don't.
right, fair enough.
It's like the Bills, man.
I'm just glad Brock didn't pick the Chiefs, because then the Chiefs definitely wouldn't have won. If we would have had a clean sweep, oh man, you might as well give the Lions the Super Bowl.
I just want to be different.
I will say, before we go, because I know we're running out of time, if Brock's NFC divisional matchups happen, those are probably the two most entertaining games I think we could ask for in the divisional round. A rematch of Week 15 or Week 18, which I think the Vikings are going to do a lot better, and then a high-powered offense in Tampa with Philly, who's probably going to be firing on all cylinders by then. So I think if your NFC divisional round happens, I think that'd be really entertaining.
I'm telling you, looking at the schedule. Oops, I did not mean to do that. Here we go.
Oh, man.
Looking at the wild card schedule, don't be shocked if Pittsburgh comes out with a win. I know that they might play like Iowa style football and just try to do the time of possession thing, and it can work. But outside of that, on the AFC side, at chalk is pretty much where I'm going.
I'm going to add one more thing. This is not a gambling podcast. This is not how it's going to be. I will say Pittsburgh plus like 8.5.
Is that what the line's at?
I like Pittsburgh a lot. It's a divisional game. I don't know. Sue me if I think the Steelers could potentially cover, if not pull it off. But I just think the game's going to be a lot closer than people think.
I tell you what, if it's Eagles and Chiefs, I'm going to be sicker than I am right now.
Woo.
Yeah, my only thing, I would not be surprised if Baltimore makes a run. Just because I feel like it's got to happen eventually, right? Like Lamar can't just be like the best regular season player we've ever seen, and then just turn into just a squash as soon as he hits the playoffs.
You haven't watched
It's
Jason
gotta
Tatum
happen.
before this season.
Yeah, and then he won a championship. Like it's
With the help of JB.
okay.
I'm
With the help
kidding,
of Derrick
I'm
Henry,
kidding.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
Lamar's
he found
doing it eventually.
He found his
gotta
Jalen
happen.
Brown. He found his Jalen Brown.
Oh man, that's funny. But we're running out of time on this episode. We recapped the playoffs, picked our Super Bowl picks for this year. But signing off for the Sports Nerds, I'm Dawson Livingston, joined by Brock Bierman and Braden Bankin. Signing off.